I just watched an interview with Sky News with Lord Adonis and Brendan O'Neill from Spiked Online. Brendan O'Neill was there as ever to provide common sense and defend free speech, while Lord Adonis was there to say that free speech is fine, I support it, but you can't say this. So he's being a hypocrite as usual. He's also being a hypocrite by saying that it's criminal to shout Nazi at someone when that's what he's been doing for absolutely ages. It's only because it's a politician. And it's only because he's an elitist that he believes that only elitists should be allowed access to Parliament, not the working class, not the riffraff. That's why people like Tommy and his throngs of DFLA associates, you know, the chavs that Owen Jones claimed to represent one time when he wrote a book about them. And let me be clear, me saying that does not mean that I am claiming to be a chav. I've never claimed to be a chav. I wouldn't want to be, you know, reductive in that way. But it's all right for Lord Adonis to, you know, call everyone Nazis, say that the referendum was like the 1930s and like Hitler's Germany, rising up again with the far right and lying like that. It's all right for him to say that on the media any number of times, but, you know, the way that the working class shouted it at Anna Soubry was disgusting and indefensible. Well, it is defensible because it's a place to protest. It's an area, and she's known to have called them Nazis. So it's kind of understandable. She's the ringleader who calls them Nazis. And now she's getting a taste of her own medicine. And they don't like it, and Lord Adonis doesn't like it, and they don't like the free speech. They don't like free speech. They don't like people having free speech. They want a free press. They want free access for the elitists and peerages and so on. You know, people that have got a place in the House of Lords. Well, we haven't all got a place in the House of Lords. Most people have just got the vote. And now that we know that the vote is a lie, people aren't going to vote. Loads of people aren't going to vote. I don't think I'm going to vote. And people are trying to tell me that the vote actually matters. Well, if it mattered, the referendum would have been respected by now. If it mattered, we wouldn't have Theresa May right now, because there would have been some sort of process that realised she was being treasonous and it would have stopped her. And if it mattered, if there was any process of democracy and actually anything genuinely that we could make a difference with, then the Speaker of the House would have been removed. Then, you know, little things would have changed, but nothing actually changes, let alone the big things. So Brendan O'Neill is absolutely right. They want to sanitise Parliament Square. They want to stop people protesting there. With the history of things like the suffragettes, which of course everyone agrees with, but no one agrees with this far-right, alt-right, anti-Islamic, you know, contingent of the public who are actually the ones looking out for people's safety and, you know, the ones that care about the country. Because I'm always hearing that these people on the far right or the alt-right and people like Katie Hopkins are hateful people. I've never seen a video showing me they're hateful. They have love in their hearts, they have love for their families, and they care about the country and they care about the trajectory of it. That's why they do what they do and face the attacks that they do from the mainstream, from the left, and from the so-called tolerant masses. The ones that claim to be tolerant are the opposite of tolerant. Because if they were tolerant, they wouldn't need to be claiming to be tolerant. You wouldn't need to claim it because you'd just be tolerant. It's just the default setting. You don't need to go around going, oh, I'm so tolerant. Just in the same way you don't meet people and say, hello, I'm not a rapist or a murderer. How do you do? Nice to meet you. You don't need to say that. You don't need to go around saying you're tolerant. It's assumed. But tolerant should mean tolerant of people's opinions, not just tolerant of what they are. I mean, you should be tolerant of what they are anyway, but you should be tolerant of people's opinions. You should be able to tolerate people having dissenting opinions or different views from you, or different methods of doing things. But Lord Adonis says that these working class riffraff people, you know, are far right. They don't like Muslims, they're racist, they're hateful, they're bigoted, they're homophobic. Run through the list, run through the gamut, like everyone does, like Macron did recently. About 80% of his population. Yeah, that's going to work. So I don't actually agree with Brendan O'Neill when he says that I don't agree with what these people, you know, these people, the DFLA, etc. They're just ordinary people. I don't think that Tommy is a fascist or a racist. Has Tommy ever said anything racist? Seriously. You find a video, find me him saying something racist. It can't be that difficult if he's alt-right, far-right, head of the EDL, etc. It can't be that difficult to find Tommy Robinson saying something racist. So find it. Oh, it doesn't exist, because he never was. But this is part of the media and establishment smearing of people as alt-right or far-right. Just ordinary people that care and have compassion in their hearts. The ones that care about the country, not the ones that want to destroy everything. They're the ones that are called hateful by the media because everything's backwards. If we were going by Lord Adonis's metric, then he would be punished by the police for saying what he said about 1930s, or, you know, people are Nazis, etc. People are bigots and fascists and racists, and everyone wants to see white faces like, well, that Lib Dem leader said. I can't remember his name. He's so inconsequential. Oh, and also remember, we were directly blamed for the death of Joe Cox. It happened just before the referendum. Oh, it was all Brexiteers, wasn't it? Even the papers coming out saying it, you know, and people were literally accusing Brexiteers of being murderers and terrorists and all the rest of it. Everything. We've been called everything under the sun. And now one person gets called Nazi on the other side and suddenly it's, you know, national emergency. What the hell's going on? What about us? And I'm glad Brendan O'Neill made that point. But also he said that Lord Adonis had said things that Brendan had found objectionable. And yet he would defend his right to say them. That's what it comes down to with Spiked Online. They defend free speech. And that's the opposite of what Lord Adonis wants. When he says free speech, he doesn't want free speech. He wants his speech, and all other speech is bigoted and intolerant, and we shouldn't tolerate it. And that's not the way to run a society. That's the way to run it into the ground. But when there's no democracy, free speech disappears quite easily. The illusion is now being shattered as well, and that's why we're seeing the Yellow Vest protests translating to this country, and we're starting to see new measures to control protesters, because now the protests are against legitimate targets again. Not like Antifa that were trying to just shut down free speech. Now it's more like Occupy that was trying to get at the banks that actually caused the financial crisis. Now the targets are legitimate with the Yellow Vest protesters. And the governments, the establishment, knows it's the majority of the people. They know they're not going away, they know they're only growing, and they know they can't be allowed to stand.